We can all relate to the struggle of accepting life as it is, of how things actually are, especially when it goes against all of our expectations. But when we push against life, we're only increasing our sense of discomfort. And it doesn't take long for us as human beings to learn that life is going to happen on life's terms, no matter what. And we find that pushing against life is just a way that we're trying to control it. And consciously relinquishing control goes against everything we know and everything that we have been taught. But trying to control life only creates more inner turmoil. So where can we find any comfort? Where can we find any guidance as we navigate these unexpected challenges that are just a natural part of human life? Hey everyone, I'm Jess, and you are watching Living Free, and this is where we discuss becoming liberated from the traps we sometimes find ourselves in as we go through life. If you want to support this work, please consider subscribing. So acceptance and surrender are the way, no matter what, because they free us from these energetic blocks of resistance that sometimes cloud our awareness. They release us from the energetic contraction that prevents us from experiencing the power of clarity, from seeing a clearer way forward and through whatever the challenges that we are going through. It seems like life always brings us back to what Epictetus says: it's not about what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. It's a perspective shift that isn't focusing so much on the outer implications of the thing that happened, but rather it notices the inner response, the inner implications and reactions. In my case, I'm dealing with an injury that has sidelined all of my plans for the remainder of the year. And in my last video, I talked about how I only talk about things that I'm teaching and training in myself. And as I go through this challenge, I'm finding that often I'm wishing that things were different. And I have to keep reminding myself that this is the reality that I'm faced with right now, period. And again, resistance only seems to add a sense of more suffering, of more disease, of more angst. And it's simply exhausting. And the more I fight against this reality, the more exhausted I become, both physically and mentally, which certainly doesn't help anything. And acceptance and surrender isn't about giving up. It's clearing up those energetic pathways for a better, for a more productive path forward. It's clearing out the mental and emotional blocks that are keeping us from navigating through the situation with wisdom and a more productive response. It can also be helpful to be reminded of the interconnectedness of everything, of all things. And that we are not just these little separate skin suits fighting through life all alone. And we should remember that our true nature, behind this costume of identity, transcends all of the experience of having a physical and finite body and the challenging circumstances that come along with that. So if we're dealing with some sort of injury or some sort of illness, it becomes very easy to identify with the pain, to fixate on our limitations. So what I'm personally working on is noticing my fixations and releasing them, and sensing instead a greater awareness and an essence of being that is whole and that is eternal. And when these emotions come up, in my case, a lot of frustration, disappointment, periods of despair, of boredom, of restlessness, I just have to notice them, and that it's okay that they are there. Part of the resistance is in pushing and judging those feelings when they come up. Any little contraction against it is only going to increase the intensity of the feelings. Emotions are simply just temporary energetic waves. Notice how they come, and then notice how they peak, and then notice how they just kind of dissipate. When we learn to notice the natural progression of an emotion, we can more easily accept it and give it the space that it needs so that it can naturally run its course. And doing anything else, like controlling it or suppressing it or denying it, only serves to trap a lot of that emotional energy, creating a block that makes having a productive response nearly impossible. Surrender and acceptance are what is going to allow you to release those blockages and to help us not to form new blocks. So this is how we accept the natural flow of life. Have we not yet learned that changes in life are going to happen spontaneously and without our permission? Instead of looking at these changes or these challenges as separate from life itself, we can learn instead to regard them as life, the ever-changing natural flow of life. And we, are just as much part of that flow of life as the experiences being experienced in the flow. So be kind to yourself by practicing this acceptance. Don't create those energetic blockages within yourself. And they are caused by resistance to the circumstances or whatever personal challenge that you might be going through at this moment. Acknowledge the current reality in full acceptance. So it's only through acceptance that we can clearly focus on what we actually can control. This means deciding how best to care for yourself, both in body and in mind, and in your thinking, and in the productive actions that you can take to move yourself through this challenge. So this means practicing a really intense presence with how things are right now, how things actually are, and not getting caught up in a pity party of why me or the what if game. And if you find yourself doing this, just notice it and accept it without judgment. Noticing is always the key to initiating a more productive response. Then let things take the time that they need. Healing is going to take time. Impatience is natural, but it's not helpful. So maybe this thing that I'm dealing with, or the thing that you are dealing with, is bringing us a lesson or an opportunity for growth. I personally have to keep bringing myself to find meaning in all of this. I have to trust that there is an opportunity here, even if it's just to grow in patience. And with that will come wisdom and more understanding. I have to trust that the circumstantial barrier is not a barrier, but it's a pathway to resilience. And I must learn to be comfortable with the uncertainty of it all. This is building resilience. So thank you so much for being here with me today. If you want to support this work, you know what to do. Channel growth has been really slow, but we're just going to keep it on in faith. And I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you all next time.